Hey YouTube, Brandon with Taylorsfiresmoke Cooking. Welcome back in. Today we're going to whip up some of the best smothered steak you'd ever eat. Come on, let's get into it. Today we're going to be using some bottom round steak that we got from Sam's Club. Real good for recipes like this. I like it, grew up on it. Got onion, bell pepper, a meat mallet to help tenderize the meat. And of course we have seasoning, salt, pepper, garlic, and that stuff like that. So first thing you want to do, you want to make sure that you rinse your meat off, and then you're going to take the pointed side of that mallet and teach that meat a lesson and give it a few little whacks. Make sure you can spread it out. You don't want to go crazy with it, but you do want to go ahead and give it a nice little pound to help tenderize that meat. And once you use that pointed side, you can take that blunted side and also give it a couple whacks and just kind of spread it out a little bit. It's definitely going to help with tenderizing this meat, because generally top round steak, bottom round steak is a tougher cut. It's not something you're going to want to put on the grill and eat as a regular steak, but when you're making smothered steak, it really doesn't matter what kind of steak you use, because you're going to cook it low and slow and it's going to tenderize over time. So what you want to do, you want to take your coarse ground kosher salt and just begin to season your meat liberally. Season it to taste. I like to season it liberally because we are going to be making a gravy, and that meat is going to help season that gravy as well. So you don't really have to worry about the meat being overly salty, because it's going to help with seasoning that gravy as well. And you're going to go in with your coarse ground black pepper. If you grew up on smothered steak and things like that, let me know down in the comment section. Like I said, steak and gravy, that's my thing. Grew up on it. That's the reason I'm the size I am. You put gravy over pretty much anything and I'm gonna eat it. So got our garlic and our granulated onion. You're gonna hit it liberally with that as well, and you're gonna season both sides the same. Again, you don't have to really worry about using a premium cut of steak when you're making smothered steak. I've seen some people do it. To me, it's kind of a waste. When you're buying an expensive steak, you want to cook it, so you can enjoy the steak. Salt, pepper, and put it over the grill, or if you pan fry it. When you're smothering it in onions and gravy, there's no need to buy a ribeye or anything like that, in my opinion, because when you're done cooking this, it's going to be fork tender and just as tender as you'd get that one. So it's kind of pointless. Now what I have here is my seasoned flour. I just season it lightly with the same seasonings that I had for my meat. Then you're going to put it, fry them and brown them off in a shallow pan. You're not cooking it all the way through, because we're going to cook it once we begin to smother it. But you do want to get a nice little golden brown on the meat before you move on with your process. So after a few minutes, you can see how the meat is looking. We've got a nice little crust on it. Nice color. And it's going to give it a flip, and just repeat the process. Get a nice little color on the flip side of it as well. This is a recipe that is easy to do. We're going to make a pan gravy today, a scratch-made pan gravy. So, that's what I'm doing now. What I have, we just reserved a little bit of the oil. We did remove some of the oil out of the pan. What we have here, probably about a half of a cup of oil. And what you want to do, you want to scrape the bottom of the pan as well. Get all that goodness and those seasonings out of there. So when you have a half a cup of oil, you want to go back in with a half a cup of flour. And you just want to go ahead and keep moving it around and cook that flour taste out of that flour. This is going to be your roux for the gravy. Again, keep making sure you scrape the bottom of that pan. You want all that goodness off the bottom of that pan. So I just had a quarter cup, a measuring cup. That's why I went in twice with it. So that's a half a cup of flour. So it's basically your 1-to-1 ratio. And just keep turning it and stirring until you get it to the color you want. You want a blonde roux, you can go light, like around where we are right now. If you want it a little bit darker, you can keep on stirring it. And see what we have here. This is what you want. When you move it like that, and you can scrape your spatula across the bottom of the pan and it doesn't run back in quickly, then you know that's what you want. So after you've done that, you want to go ahead and put down some of your onions and bell peppers on the bottom of the pan. That's what I like to do. And then we're going to put our meat on top of that, and then we're going to cover the meat again with more bell pepper and onion. You can see our roux is darkening up really nicely. So now I just have some beef stock here. If you don't have beef stock, you can use chicken stock or even vegetable stock. It really doesn't matter. You could even use water, but if you really want a rich, deep flavor, you want to use some beef stock. And you can see that gravy is beginning to thicken up a little bit already, and that's fine because once we put our meat in, we're going to put more of the beef stock in to cover our meat, as well as the juices that are going to come out of the meat as well when we're cooking it. So go ahead and layer it on into your pan real well. It's smelling fantastic already. This is one of my favorite dishes by far. If you can't get all of the pieces, on the pan itself, it's okay. You want to try to submerge as best you can, but if you have to put some on top, it'll work because we're going to cover it again, like I said, and that gravy's going to cover, and it's going to be perfectly fine. It's going to come out just as tender as the rest. So you want to, again, try to submerge your meat as best as possible, give it a nice little turn. Then we're going to come back with our bell pepper and onion and begin to cover it up again with more of those. Now you can go with as much or as little bell pepper and onions you like. I love bell peppers and onions in my gravies, and especially on my smothered steak. So if you're not as big of a fan, you can leave some of it out or out altogether, but to me it just adds to the flavor. We're going to put our fire down on low, and we're just going to let it simmer and let it go. I do like to put a little bit more pepper and some of my seasonings on top and then cover it up. We've had it running now. This has probably been about, I'd say 30 to 45 minutes since we've smothered and cooked it down. You can see how all the meat has submerged. The gravy is the perfect consistency, but the meat is not quite as tender as we want it yet. And you just taste, you just test it with your fork. If the fork runs right through it like us going through hot butter, then you know you're good. If it still has a little bit of resistance, then go ahead and continue to let it simmer for a little longer. Taste it, the gravy, and we just want to add a little more pepper. I love pepper in my gravy. You may not like it as peppery, but I do. So it's a good time to taste, and if you need to adjust seasonings, go ahead and do that. Then we're going to cover it on back up and let it go. All right, guys, we let it go another 15-20 minutes. Steak is exactly where you want it. It's perfect. Vegetables are cooked down. The meat is fork tender. Gravy is perfect. Now I got some white rice, and then we have some like a California blend vegetable medley. That's gonna be our dinner for tonight. You want to, and then quite naturally spoon a ton of that gravy over that rice. Like I said, me and my daughter, we can sit around and eat a big old bowl of rice and gravy pretty much any and every day of the week. Just look at the color on that gravy, though. That is what you call that 40 weight brown gravy. That definitely stick to them bones and fill you up. Here's our plate. Now you see, all I have here is just a fork. Now look how easy that steak is cutting apart. No knife necessary. And that's exactly how you want it. So that's what I'm saying. When you take a round steak or something, you don't have to use a high-end cut to get some tender smothered steak. Just get a round steak and it'll turn out perfect. If you guys enjoyed the recipe, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the video out, and give this recipe a try. Leave some comments if you're going to. Till the next time, guys, God bless.